vulnerability is power. Because what we all want is to feel connection. And we can't feel and experience connection when we're so afraid to show who we are.
This is Manlihood, the podcast for men who want to rise up and live with purpose. With your host, Josh Hatcher, this show is here to help you level up as a husband, father, leader, and man, with real conversations and strategies to help you in every area of your life.
Gentlemen, welcome back to Manlihood, Season 9. This is the podcast where we help men become better husbands, fathers, and leaders, better men. I believe men are good, and we're trying to help men continue to be good and actually become even better, and this is how we do it, by digging in and talking about the hard stuff. Listen, today's episode is a little bit different. I'm excited about it because it's not every day that we have a woman on Manlihood, and I'm glad that we have it. I think she adds some great insight. I mean, we all know women are awesome, and we can learn from them too. And if you can't learn from a woman, the problem is you. But today's guest is Jeanell Greene, and she's a marriage coach, a speaker, a relationship expert who's helped countless couples restore connection, rebuild trust, and reignite passion in their relationships. She's not just talking theory, she's lived it. She's walked through heartbreak, healing, and growth, and now she helps men and women all over the world communicate better, love deeper, and actually understand each other. Tell me we don't need that. And you guys have all seen the memes of like the giant book for helping understand women. Men are usually easier to understand, but we need some help, and I think Janelle helps break it down. So her links are going to be in the show notes. What makes this episode special for us here at Manlihood is that she's passionate, not just about couples counseling, but actually about helping men. We call her the man whisperer because I think she understands us and helps us to understand women better. So she's a lot of fun. This conversation is great. Before we get into it, okay, I want to make sure that you're subscribed to Manlihood Plus because that's where you get exclusive content you can't get anywhere else. Subscribe at YouTube and at Spotify. Links will be in the show notes. Get my new book also in the show notes. The link is there on Amazon. It's called Fight Like Hell, A Journal for Men Who Won't Back Down. It's 30 days of intense meditations and journal prompts to help you level up as a man, to build resilience, build mental strength, emotional strength, and just become a better man. So make sure you grab the book. Again, it's at Amazon. Join the Manlihood Man Cave, our private Facebook group, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and leave a rating and review for this podcast so we can help more people know about the work we're doing. Without further ado, here's Jeanell Greene. Janelle, welcome to Manlihood. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Josh. How are you?
I'm great. I'm excited to have this conversation with you because we have not had a lot of women on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to add a lot of perspective for us. So I'm glad to be able to talk to you today.
Me too. I'm excited to, drop some wisdom, some woman wisdom that, hopefully the guys can really take into their lives, and not just with their partners, but all the women in their lives.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think, we talked about this before we started. There's the meme of the man with the giant book that looks like 10 phone books stacked together, and he opens it up and he's trying to understand. And, the caption says, everything you need to know about women. And he's like, there's no way I'll ever learn all this,
Yeah.
So, and I know that you're a marriage coach. That's your background. And so I'm hoping that you can teach us some things about how to be a better husband. How to help relate to our wives better and women in general better. So, that's kind of what I'm hoping we can get out of this conversation.
I love it. I'm so passionate about helping men because I see that there's a ton of support for women, right? Because women are just naturally community, based, I guess, it's just a natural way of being. But for men, that's not really the case. And I really see that there's a missing in the world. And, I coach a lot of men, and I have deep compassion for them, because being a woman, I know for a fact we are complicated, we are illogical, we are emotional, and we think that men are mind readers. So, trying to teach women about how to communicate with a man, as well as teaching men how to communicate with women, it's actually not as complicated as one may think. I think it's more about breaking down the assumptions and the things that we were taught as children, and really, embracing, first of all, our own authenticity and who we are as a human being, and then actually breaking free from the things that, we were conditioned to think, like men can't cry, men don't have feelings, all these things. And I think, from a learning standpoint, I think women have just as much to learn about relationships as men do. But I really am sympathetic and empathetic to men, and they're, okay, so here's what I want to say. The last few years, I want to say maybe the last 20 years, there's been a huge shift inside of relationships, right? Before, it was like the men went to work, they came home, sat on the couch, the woman would cook for them, and she'd take care of the kids. And now that there's, dual income families, there's this kind of like, I don't know, like this friction. And I feel like men don't actually know where they fit into the whole thing, with feminism and women trying to be independent. And yet we still want so much from our man and expect so much. It can be so confusing for men, I think, right? Because it's like, no, I want to be alone, leave me alone, I want to be independent. And yet it's like, well, why don't you do this, 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 and this, and this for me? And so I can see kind of men shutting down, because it's like, no matter what they do, they can't win, right? And so I think, being able to empower men as well as women is like the best job ever. And I love getting these texts from men who said, oh my God, Janelle, no one has actually ever explained to me what this is. And you were able to do it in like 30 seconds. And like, now I get it. And their wives are like, what? I've been trying to tell you this for 22 years. And this woman comes in for 2 minutes, says what she says, and all of a sudden now you get it. And they're just gobsmacked. But again, it's the way that we communicate. And more importantly, it's the tone in which we communicate, because the words are only part of it. But if we're communicating with criticism, judgment, right? Like ridicule, it doesn't even matter what the words are. All we can hear is, oh, so you're saying I'm not enough. Oh, you're saying I'm a crappy husband. Oh, we can't even hear what the commitment and the desire is, because all we can hear is the criticism. So yeah, anyways.
Have you seen the video of the guy with the spool of wire? Have you seen that video on the internet?
No.
So there's a guy with a spool of wire, and he's sitting outside, and he's just kind of sitting there holding this spool of wire. There's just a little bit of wire left. And he's just like sitting there on his back porch staring at it. And his wife comes outside, and she says very judgmentally, "What are you doing? I thought you were coming here to do something." And he's just like, "I bought this spool of wire like 30 years ago. And it was like this big around. And now there's just a little bit left." And it just like, he's just like, you can realize he's having an existential crisis when he realized he's used 30 years of wire. Do you know what I mean? It's like this moment that just hits him. And so he's sitting on his porch just pondering, where has my life gone? And then she just starts nagging him about something and basically makes him look like he's a fool. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like and then she posted on TikTok to say, look how stupid my husband is, everybody, kind of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, and the internet, of course, just like blasts her for being unsympathetic to what's going on, but because it's just proof that, yeah, men do have emotion, and he did not say, I'm having an existential crisis, right? He was just like, I bought this spool of wire 30 years ago, and there's only a little bit left. You know what I mean? Like you can see what he's thinking, but he doesn't say it because he doesn't know the words for it. Right. I just bring it up because it's like when you talk about that tone with which women sometimes talk. she just wants him to come inside and do the thing that he's supposed to be doing.
Right.
And he's literally having an existential crisis in that moment, and she just has no sympathy for him.
My husband, I've been with my husband now, we're coming up, I think, 19 years. And he has been my greatest teacher. My husband is kind of the opposite of, growing up how I thought men were. And he's been my inspiration, he's been my teacher. But, there's a few things he's taught me. Number one has been saying I'm sorry. I never grew up with my parents apologizing. If you got in a fight with your siblings, you just went at each other and then you would get fed up, you would walk away, go to your rooms, cool off, come back, and pretend nothing happened. But it was always swept under the rug. There was never communication about what happened, what you hurt me, none of that. And my husband was the first person really who taught me what it looks like to be honest, to be authentic, to be vulnerable, and also to call me on my shit. Like when I start getting critical with him, he's like, and he does it in a really playful way so that I don't feel shame and guilt about it. And of course, this was like a long time ago, but this man just has so much integrity that although he may not be happy with me, the way in which he communicates with me is always at the most respectful level, and has taught me to mind my words, to really think about what am I saying and how does that impact other people, And I think that's one of the things, women, we have like a million different things going in our minds, right? The way that our brains are wired are very different than how men are. And so one of the things I explain to women is that it's not, because there's a story that a lot of women have that either A, men don't care, or that they're dumb or stupid or whatever, right? Simple. And what I try to explain to women, I said, that's not it. It's just that they're just wired differently, right? And if we even think about 2,000, 3,000 years ago, it was the men's job to go out and hunt and bring the food back. And it was the women's job to procreate, to take care of the home. And things have gotten...
Even like 300 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not even that long ago, man.
Yeah. Not that long ago.
Yeah.
Right. But, things have changed a lot. And so now that women are having to take on more, they're just like, go, 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 right? Where with men, and to be honest, Josh, I'm more of a manly brain than I am a woman brain, just so you know. Like, I'm kind of the man in the relationship where my husband will talk to me and I'll be like, uh-huh. And he's like, you're not even listening to me, are you? And I'm like, what? He's like, you just said uh-huh to what I asked you, and yet you don't even know what I said. And I'm like, yep, that's me. Or, he's the one who remembers dates. I don't. He's the one who thinks of, he remembers everything. I don't. I'm very sort of one-track minded. So I appreciate the difference in how our brains are wired. And he never makes me feel bad about it. He's always just like, I love you, and it's okay, right? But I think just understanding that we're different. I think one of the biggest mistakes, especially women make, and men too actually, is that we think that the other thinks the same way. Well, if this is common sense for me, it should be common sense for him. Well, how do you know that? We were brought up differently, with different values, with different parents, with different experiences. And same thing with men. Men are like, okay, well, logically, she should have done this, but she said that. It's like, well, women aren't really logical, sorry. And so I think being able to just understand and accept that we're different is would solve actually a lot of problems. Because then instead of getting judgmental, now we get curious. So tell me about that. Like, I don't understand that. Can you explain to me? And now we're getting into the other person's world. So I think that's one of the things, you were asking me earlier about, what are things that men need to really understand that maybe they don't. I think that's one of that. Is that we're different. B, we all just want to be loved and accepted for who we are, don't we? We've all got a little 5-year-old of us that just wants to be loved and accepted. And I think when we can have that much grace and patience, just like we do for children, with each other, man, this world would be so different, right? And so sometimes I will bring it to the children. I said, if your child did this, would you stop loving them? Well, no, because they're my kid. Okay, well, why would you stop loving your partner just because they made a mistake? They did something very human that they regret, that they're working towards, repairing, why would you punish them over and over again for 10 years because of this thing that happened, 15 years ago? It's like, well, because he should know better. Well, should he? Right? Like, I think it's just getting out of our own way and noticing the ego at play. And my husband has just been so extraordinary to teach me what it truly means to be in partnership. Like, this man is the most helpful, most kind, most considerate, most affectionate and vulnerable human that I know. And he is my rock. And I get to do what I do because he loves and supports me no matter what.
So it's only been fairly recently that I've been able to understand how to be vulnerable with my spouse. I don't like the word.
Yeah.
And there's reasons, you know what I mean? We could go through the whole concept, I always paint the picture of like a dog, the dog rolls over and shows its belly because it trusts you, but it's really saying, I'm trusting you. I'm showing you that you could kill me. Here's my throat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you don't do that to just anybody, like that's why the dog does it, And so like, you don't do that for just anybody. So I don't like that word because it's letting you into my weakness,
Yes.
And it was really hard for me to do that with my wife.
Yeah.
And I'm still learning what it means. I still struggle with it sometimes.
Yeah. Me too.
And yeah, I'm still, I don't, and then also then to acknowledge and understand and be like, I'm not okay with her illogical emotion. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't know what to do with that.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to learn how to handle that. So maybe, so as I'm bringing that up, and you're a marriage coach, maybe we could talk about some of those things, knowing, okay, there are probably a lot of guys out there who don't know how do I open up to my wife? Because I just had this conversation with a guy yesterday who he said, I can't show my wife how I feel. If I show her this, she'll be mad at me that I show her that I'm sad, that I'm grieving this, because if I show her that I'm weak, then she doesn't have that rock to get us through this hard time. And to be honest, that he's saying that based on experience. You know what I mean? Like that's the experience they have together. So he needs to know, how do I be vulnerable with her to show her that I'm hurting, that I'm grieving?
Yeah.
How does a guy do that?
It is, it's hard because if the receiver, like you're saying, the safe space or the right over there is not safe and you've got proof of that, it is almost impossible to be able to, knowing that it's going to basically, you're going to regret it. Really, right?
And a lot of times it's the story we tell ourselves, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Because
it doesn't mean that it's real proof. It's imagined proof most of the time.
Right. Or it has happened in the past, but now this is a different scenario. They go, oh, well, if that happened, that it equals that this is going to happen again. Well, not necessarily, because it depends on the context.
Right. Because we're logical and we're going to process it logically.
Right.
But the person that we're talking to is not logical and may not operate according to the rules of the same logic that we're thinking of.
Yes. So I'm going to put this in a context that, just as we're talking is right there for me. So one of the areas that I work around a lot is infidelity.
Okay.
And 90% of them have been the men who've cheated on the wife. Now, I'll tell you, though, there's a lot more women who are cheating these days than there used to be, but they're way more hush-hush about it. I think, men are a bit more verbal about what they've done or haven't done, in my opinion.
I think they might be stupider and get caught.
That too.
I'm just saying.
So,
I don't think they're coming clean. I think they're getting caught easier. Yeah. But go ahead.
So this is what I hear from men. How do I get her to trust me again? Right? I've just betrayed her. She's in tears 24/7. She's angry. She's bitter. She says she can't trust me. She wants to leave. But I made a mistake. How do I repair this, Janelle? And to your point about emotions, what tends to happen is, especially when men feel guilt and shame, and I'm going to say men but it's not men, women, but I'm just going to use that just because that's what's there for me. So I don't want to be men are this way and women are this way, because that's not true. Women do just the same things that men do. So, but the thing that happens is when we're feeling guilt and shame and someone's upset at us, the immediate reaction is what? Put up the walls, shut down, numb out, right? And hide, or, some form of that. And, or avoid, or justify, or defend. And then they wonder, why can't she just get over this already? Well, the reason she can't, quote unquote, get over it is because she doesn't feel heard. She doesn't feel like you're remorseful, and you're making excuses for your behavior. So of course she can't trust that even if she does forgive you, that you're not going to do what you just did again. So, my advice in those situations, or to this guy in particular, I said is, you got to do what's counterintuitive. And that's a lot of what I do around my coaching, is very counterintuitive. Naturally the knee-jerk reaction is to defend, justify, feel guilt, shame. And I said, I actually want you to lean in. And he's like, what do you mean? I said, lean into what she's saying. Lean into her emotions. Lean into that discomfort. And just get really curious and just try to hold space. Do you know what I mean by hold space? Like, just let her be with whatever she's feeling. And, I teach them this technique on how to kind of protect themselves, protect their heart, so they're not absorbing that crappy energy, but they're still able to stay present in the conversation. And I said, and then the other thing is, you got to learn to be empathetic. Well, what does that mean? Well, put yourself in her shoes. What do you think if that happened to you? How would you feel? Oh yeah, I'd be really crappy. Yeah, so lean into that. Because then when you can experience in some level what she feels, and you're able to articulate like, wow, I did that to you? Man, no wonder you're so upset with me. Like, what else? Tell me more. How else do you feel? Now that thing that she's been holding on to, resisting, hurting, like conflicted with, now she gets to let it out. All those emotions, she's just blah, right? It's like verbal diarrhea. But in that process, she now gets to heal. She now gets to feel heard. She now gets to see that because you're with her, present, not resisting what she's saying, not making her wrong, not trying to fix her, and just being her friend, being that person who's holding space. Now she's starting to build trust again because you're there. And you're actually wanting to know what it's like for her and the damage that you've done. Once that process starts to move in that direction, and that she experiences that, hey Josh, you got me. You got what I feel. Now she can start to trust you again. Well, now, sorry, there's a piece missing. The next piece is, okay, get the impact and then create a new promise or create a new commitment. Because, you can clean up the past, but until you replace it with something new, you're just going to keep living in the past. So it's like, okay, honey, I got it. Like, man, no wonder you're so pissed off at me. Not only did I reject you, but then I go off and, be with somebody else without that's so disrespectful of me. And I'm so sorry I hurt you. And I know that was selfish of me. And I understand why you don't trust me right now. I got it. And hopefully with time, I'm committed to doing whatever it takes for you to trust me because I love you. And I've been taking that for granted. And I'm so sorry for hurting you. It was not my intention. It's not who I am. And you don't deserve that. That's what women want to hear. They don't want to hear your excuses. They don't want to hear, well, you did this to me. And no, they just want to be gotten. And just like men, we want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be respected. And now we can start to build trust again. And then, so now the next stage is, can I, with integrity, keep my promise? So if I'm promising to get off social media, I'm promising not to chat with other women, I'm promising not to lie, right? All these things that we make promises about, as long as we continue to show up in alignment with that promise, that's how the trust starts to be rebuilt.
And I think if we take that same stuff, we can apply that whether or not, like, to almost any situation.
Yeah.
So
That's what I was saying to you earlier
Yeah.
when I said, it's
Yeah.
it's not as complicated as people think. It really isn't. I think the problem, and what most therapists and counselors that I hear about where they go wrong, is they stay so surface level that all they're dealing with is the symptoms. They're not actually dealing with the core issue.
Well, you know why they do that, right?
Why?
Because they stay in business if you have more sessions.
Oh, yeah. That's actually really great, because you know what? I only work with most of my clients for 60 to 90 days.
Yeah, no, yeah, they want 6 years of you coming to them every week and paying whatever it costs every week for 6 years, 10 years.
So
And,
true.
they want you to stay married and fighting that long, or get divorced and then need 10 years of healing therapy to get through that. That's what they want. They don't want, they don't want you to get better and to get healed. They want, yeah.
See, I'm the opposite. I'm like, get what you need from me, and then go and live your life so that I can go help somebody else.
Yeah, get what you need from me, get better, and then refer your broken friends to me so I can help them. Right?
But honestly, like, infidelity is probably my most common cases, and usually they come to me within the week that they've just found out. I actually had a cop who was cheating on his wife, and she found out, and she was cheating with him with prostitutes. And the crazy part about it is, they just had a baby. Like, the baby's like 2 months old. They went through in vitro and all this crazy infertility stuff. And the wife is absolutely stunning, gorgeous Korean woman, beautiful. And she's like throwing herself at him. And he's rejecting her and then going out and paying for sex. So she was so upset, clearly. And, in doing the work, what we got to the point was that this had actually nothing to do with her. This was all about him, his childhood, his mom, who called, because he was an overweight kid and he was Korean. And so his mother was always telling him he needed to lose weight, and just made him feel like there was something wrong with him. And so as an adult, he felt that he couldn't be vulnerable with his wife in admitting how unworthy he felt of her. And so he would just continue to reject her and just do things to sabotage himself. And it was so sad. But once he saw that it wasn't her, it wasn't even him, it was just this trauma that was showing up in a particular way, now he could actually start to forgive himself, and his wife could start to forgive him too. But in that case, it took, I think, 2 weeks. It was just noticing what they didn't notice, seeing what they didn't see, hearing what they couldn't hear. Then they were like, oh, okay. And then it was a 12-week program, but it took 2 weeks just for them to see it. And then it was the repairing for the last 10 weeks. But it was that flip from, how could you, how dare you, la la la, to, oh, okay, I see why this, okay, so this is not about me. Okay, cool. It took 2 weeks, 2 sessions.
It's
not 4 years.
it's so hard to picture and imagine, I think people coming back from something like that, because there's so many people that check out so early, and a lot of times by the time I've seen a lot of people who, I'm coming from a ministry background, right? So people call up the church, that, my wife's a pastor, and, and I've been in church ministry stuff a long time, and there's people call up the church, we need couples counseling. And by the time they call, they're done. You know what I mean? By the time they call, one of them has already made up their mind. They don't want help. They don't want to move forward. And they're just calling to see if there's any last vestige of hope, and it's usually one of them that's calling, not both of them that's you know what I mean? And I'm sure you've seen some of those people that are, one of them is, can we get help? And the other one's like, I don't want help, and that does happen.
Yeah.
But sometimes, when you tell me that story, where it's like that's a big thing, and it's hard to even picture somebody coming back from that, but to think that they could, I guess if you're listening to this and you're at home and you're like, My marriage is falling apart. There's no hope for me. Holy crap. There could be hope for you.
Yeah. Because here's the thing, especially, and I don't know about men, but here's what I know about women, because I've actually been divorced. Mike is my second husband. Women consider divorce when we see no change, when it just seems hopeless. And, we're imagining ourselves 10 years down the road and going, oh my God, 10 years of this shit? Hells no, right? I am better than that. I can get a better man, whatever the story is. So that's it. And so oftentimes, yeah, it might be too late, or they might just say it's too late because they don't see the hope in the change. So even when it's only one person who says, I really want to fix this, but my partner is a no, there's still a ton of possibility, because usually the reason it's a no is because there hasn't been change. So I work with that single person to really try as best as I can with my intuitive skill and what they tell me to help them come back, to help them change in a way that the other person, the partner, is like, this is different. You're being different. You're speaking to me different. And going back to the word vulnerability, that's kind of where it starts, is to actually be able to, first of all, take responsibility for your own crap. And I think that's one of the things we are not good at, me included, is to take responsibility. It's always so much easier to go, well, I was a jerk, but he was a bigger jerk. And if he didn't do that, I wouldn't have done that. And so it's just this tit for tat, which you and I both know takes you nowhere except alone. And then we think, oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to get divorced and I'm just going to start a new relationship. Well,
And
guess
then you take
what?
your baggage with you.
Exactly. And so that's why it's so important, even if you don't want, and this is what I tell my clients, even if you guys don't want to stay together, especially if you have kids, it is so important to heal the relationship so that as co-parents, you have that respect, you have that unity, and you can, still be a team even though you're not technically married, and your kids are going to benefit from that. But again, if you don't heal this right now, you're going to leave this relationship and think there's something better out there. Guess what? You're going to attract the same person with a different face and a different name because you haven't changed. And this is why people get married 4 or 5 times and wonder why they just can't find love. Well, they're the common denominator and they don't even see that. And so that's why I'm saying, you know what? Even if you do decide to get divorced, still do the work. The inside work, because also, when you don't love yourself, and this is the thing too about self-love, when we don't love ourselves, we expect other people to fill that hole, which you and I both know is a bottomless pit. It's like a leaking, right? It's like a leaking bag because it's never enough. It'll be good for the first little while, but then it's like, okay, give me more. It's not enough. Give me more. And then, and then men will say, well, what do you want from me? Well, you figure it out. Okay, well, I'm going to do what I do. Well, that's not good enough. That's not genuine. That's, it's like, well, then tell me what you want. Well, you should know. So men are just kind of like, I give up. and then of course it bites them in the butt because the woman's like, oh, so you give up? Oh, so you don't care. You're la 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 la. And on it goes.
You said this earlier, and it kind of touches here. You said that women expect men to be mind readers.
Yes.
And I think that, like, part of that is because I think in some ways women kind of are mind readers. Like, my wife has this intuition.
Yep.
Like, she can walk in a room and she knows what people are thinking and what they're like. It gets scary. And I don't know where it comes from. I don't know if it's the trauma in her life. I don't know. But she is really good at knowing what's happening in the room, who's against her. And 9 times out of 10, she's right,
Right.
And, there's always the one time she's not, but most of the time she's right. I don't have that gift.
Well, here's the problem, though. And, again, going back to women. So I'll say to her, okay, what do you expect from him? So she'll say, he doesn't support me. Okay, well, what does that mean? Well, he needs to tell me that, he needs to comfort me when I'm upset. Okay, what does that look like? What does that sound like? She goes, well, I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know, how's he gonna know? Well, he should just figure it out. I said, but he's been trying and he's been failing. And yet when he asks you for help so that you're happy, you won't help him out. And so how can he ever win? He's always going to lose every time. So how about you tell him what you need? So this is a conversation I had with my husband early in our relationship. Okay, honey, when I'm upset, I need you to sit down. Don't try to fix me. Look me in the eye. Sit with me. Listen to me. And when I'm done, empathize with me. Tell me you love me. And then get me some ice cream. And so he knows exactly what Janelle's step 1, step 2, step 3. And guess what? He gets to be the hero every single time. And of course, when he does that, I affirm him. I validate him. I appreciate him. Like, baby, thank you so much for not trying to fix me or trying to give me advice. Thank you for just holding me and loving me and getting me my ice cream. You're the best. So here's my husband like, yeah, I did good. Right? And now he's getting more confident. Now he's being more affectionate. Now he's being more helpful. And I keep, again, praising him. And I think there's something that, I don't know if it's women, I don't know if it's people in general, that we're so stingy about praising each other. Well, why should I praise him? He didn't do anything for me. Why does he have to do something to get praised? Your children do anything to get praised? No, you just love them. You just tell them how amazing they are all the time. Why is that any different for your spouse? And I think that's part of the reason why my marriage is so freaking amazing. Our sex life is still amazing after 20 years because we have so much admiration, respect, and love for each other as humans, as lovers, as partners. There's nothing, I would never say anything negative about my husband. And that's not where I focus. What I want to focus is what I want to grow. And so I think that's part of the problem, Josh, is when we see a problem in a relationship, all we focus on is the problem and what we don't want. We never focus on what is good and what we do want. And so we live in this negative world of like, here are all the things I don't like about you. And yet that's what all they can focus and see. That's all. They don't see the good stuff. They only see the bad stuff. And so that's part of the work that we do, in our sessions is like, well, let's talk about what are the things that you love about each other and focus on that. Don't focus on what he's doing wrong. Focus on what he's doing right. Okay. He may not be great in the kitchen. He may be messy. He may not say the right thing, but man, he's loyal. He loves you. He worries about you. He comes home every night. Like, we don't think about these things. We just think about all the things that are missing. And no wonder we're so unhappy.
Well, I think there's a value in that to just in general in life in general, right? Like, I know they say that gratitude is like the enemy of anxiety, right? So if you're feeling anxious, you can put that anxiety at bay by thinking of 5 things you're grateful for. So, like, let's translate that to a relationship. How about we take some time every day and speak that praise to your spouse, and I'm preaching to myself because I don't know if I've been doing that the way I should. So like every day, find 5 things to tell your spouse that you're thankful for, but don't do it all at once, spread it out throughout the day, and I think and if you think it sounds like baloney, just try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
Probably get a lot more sex.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think sometimes like, well, I don't feel like it. I don't feel like saying I love you. I don't feel like having sex. I don't feel like, it's like, but love is a choice. And yeah, of course, as women, it's harder for us to just turn on that sex switch, right? Especially when we're like heavily stressed out, we're tired, we've got hormones. I'm going through perimenopause, so I can see my sex drive is starting to change. But where was I going with that? But I'm always in communication about where I'm at. And he's always in the know. And so even when I'm, I've promised that we're going to have sex tonight, and then it's like, honey, it's not happening. I make sure that I communicate, honey, first of all, it's not you. Second of all, I love you so much. And you are the most handsome, sexy man I've ever met. And I'm re-promising for tomorrow night. Right? So he knows it's not about him. He doesn't feel rejected. He knows that we're still tight, right? I haven't broken that safe space with him. And he's also now, privy to what's going on with me. rather than just reject him and going, I don't feel like it. It's like, no, honey, I'm dealing with some stuff.
What are since we're talking about sex in general right now, what are things that a husband can do? I think generally, and maybe it's not always, but I think generally it doesn't take much
Nope.
for men. I mean, it really, the breeze can blow right and then we're ready,
Yes.
But
Yes.
what can I do
Yeah. So
to
there's
facilitate? What can I
help
do?
things along to increase your chances.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So first thing I want to say is there's this really great book. It's called Come As You Are. And it's a really great book that explains sort of just to your point with men, like there could be a tsunami and if you said, hey, want to have sex? They'd be like, yeah. Right. With women, it's like they have to kind of be, I don't know if the mood is the right, but stress will just kill that. Because if you think about it, like a woman's body, when she's having sex, she needs to be open. In order to be open, she needs to feel vulnerable. She needs to feel safe. And she can't be in her head. She needs to be in her heart, right? In order to physically and emotionally open. When a woman is stressed, she's thinking about money. She's thinking about that thing that you didn't do. She's thinking about the kids and they didn't go to bed. And like there's all this like stuff in her head. She just clams up. It's just like she closes down. So to answer your question, be observant. If you see her struggling with the kids, honey, do you need a hand? Or, hey, honey, you know what? Let me do that. You go do that thing that you were doing. Right? And she'll be like, oh, thank you. Thank you for being my hero. I think one of the things that women really get annoyed of is that she goes, clearly he sees me struggling and doesn't lift a finger. Doesn't even ask me if I need anything or how he can help. That drives women crazy. Because men are just kind of in their own little bubble, right? Especially if let's say they're eating.
Yeah, we don't clearly see them struggling, but they think we do, but we don't clearly see them struggling.
Right. Right. Because guess what? Women expect you to read their minds and you should know this. Mm-hmm. Right? But I think, and that's the other thing, is trying to teach women that it's okay to ask for help. And men are not going to be able to read your mind. If you need something, ask for it. Especially when you're already this quote unquote independent woman. If you're trying to help someone who's like that, sometimes they get pissed off at you. Right? I don't need your help. I can do it myself. Right? So men are very confused. So again, this is why communication is so important to say whether, hey, honey, you know what? I got it. Thanks so much. Or, hey, you know what, honey? I need a hand. I'm really struggling right now. I'm starving. I haven't had a bite to eat because these damn kids. So can you just feed these kids so that I can just put something in my mouth? And 99% of men would be happy to do that. You just got to tell them what you need, right? So I think we sometimes just make it so much harder for ourselves because we think a certain way. It's actually not true.
It's important to not think of this as transactional, though.
Yes.
I think a lot of guys think, oh, I did the dishes, so I get sex.
Right.
Like, check the box. I did this, so I deserve this. Like, it's not like that. Like, and it's important to not view that because then you're just going to be disappointed. And then the sex is cheap anyway. Like, it's like you said, it's about creating safety and security and making her feel seen and making her feel her needs met. And that's what makes the difference. Like, it's not, well, it's actually about the emotion behind it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think too, it's really important to know what your partner's love language is. So for me, right, I'm an acts of service kind of person. When my husband makes dinner and it's the most amazing, mind-blowing dinner, that is my biggest turn on. When I come home and the house is clean and I didn't have to say anything, that's a huge turn on. So I have nothing to worry about. I have nothing in my head. So when he's like, hey, baby, like, I'd love to see you naked tonight, I'd be like, yeah, right? Because in my mind, he's my hero. He's my, like, super sexy. I'm so turned on because he's doing all these things for me. And I get to feel really feminine. And I think that's the other thing, too, is, like, as women, we're trying to do so much, especially as mothers. And when we can go into our feminine and the man comes into his masculine and says, hey, baby, I got you. Whatever you need, I got your back. It's like, wow, thank you. But depending on love languages, that's going to differ. So for me, If my husband did the dishes, my husband said after, like, let's have sex, I'd be like, yeah. But for another woman who says, well, you haven't even told me how beautiful I am today, or you haven't even talked to me or looked at me, and now you want sex? Hell no. Right? So it really just depends. But to your point, it's about safety. It's about helping her get out whatever is in her way mentally so that she can be present and have the energy to be there. And then I think the other thing is foreplay. I think being able to, and I know this is hard, especially as parents, but to even just put a little bit of effort to be intimate, not just go into sex. Like, that's really hard for women to get into, but to work up to it, to maybe have some music, to maybe just say something, or to like be really flirty. And me and my husband, we love to think about, what are our fantasies, and not like anything crazy or weird, but just like living into that romantic novel kind of mentality of, like, it could be, for me, it's as simple as him going into the shower, shaving, being all soft, and then he puts on this really nice soft robe and comes out with, like, my husband's jacked, like, he's got a beautiful body, and he comes out and I can see his furry chest, and he looks at me in this very, like, desirable way, and he tells me how beautiful I am. I'm done. That's it. That's all I need. I'm good. Right? But some men is just like, hey, baby, want to have sex? Take off your clothes. Let's go. It's like, wow, that was really romantic. Right? So I think just putting a little bit of more effort would go a long way. And creating intimacy. Like, I think me and my husband's sex life has been so great for the past 20 years because, when there's foreplay, there's eye contact, there's laughter, there's affirmations about, like, oh, baby, that felt really good. Like, wow, you just blew my mind. It just makes us want to please each other even more. And so the whole experience is not just a physical thing that we do because we're married. It's like the next day I'm thinking about it and going, whew, that was hot. When do I get to do that again? And oftentimes it's like, next day, do it again because it was so good the day before.
Yeah. Okay, we're changing the subject because it's getting awkward now, but it's all good.
Yeah.
No, I really do hope that helps, like, the guys that are listening to think about, like, okay, now you've heard what a lady needs, because you might not know, I think a lot of people just don't know because you've never asked, know, and maybe that's part of it too. Why don't you ask her what she needs?
Yeah.
Like, just ask.
Yeah.
Like, be okay with having an awkward conversation and find out. And then maybe, and ask each other, because you might find out that thing that you thought was working isn't working.
Yeah.
And you know not to do that, Yeah. So.
Yeah. And again, but we can't have those conversations if we don't feel safe and we don't trust each other. Right? Like, me and my husband, again, we've been together almost 20 years, and at least once a month, we have the conversation like, hey, are you happy with our sex life? Are you happy with our relationship? Is there anything that I can do for you that I'm not doing? Like, just getting really curious about what his needs are. And, and just to be able to hear, like, no, Janelle, like, you're amazing. Everything you do is great. I'm like, okay, and that thing that we did last, that weekend, that, that sexual thing, what'd you think about that? Did you like that? Oh, yeah, definitely. Or, yeah, it was okay. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, we have super conversations.
Those are really hard to have if you don't feel safe with each other to have them, because they're very, like, personal. Like what if he says, no, I didn't like that? Or what if she says, no, I didn't really like that? Then you feel like, oh, like, that feels very personal. It feels very like, oh no.
Ooh, okay.
So I think people don't like to talk about it.
Sure.
So you have to build that safety.
Yeah. Which brings me to my next point. Oh my God, such a good conversation. Here's the other point. Just because people are feeling their emotions doesn't mean that you have to make it significant in any way. The fact that someone is upset with me isn't my problem unless there was something I did wrong. But if someone's upset with me, I'm like, okay, I let them be upset. They're allowed to feel upset. They're allowed to feel whatever they want. It's when we block that and go, well, I only want you to give me positive feelings. And I think this is why a lot of men shut down, is like, we're telling men, oh, be open, be emotional. And yet when the emotion is negative and not positive, we shut it down, we push it away, don't feel this way. And really what I'm really trying to teach people is that we're humans. We're going to feel whatever we feel, especially women. You know, I could be getting mad at my husband about something really stupid and has nothing to do with my husband. I'm actually upset about that thing that happened 4 hours ago and I'm taking it out on my husband. And so consider that that's the same thing with other people. When they're upset with us or they're feeling frustrated, it often isn't actually about us. It's about something else. But again, if you have that level of trust to be like, what's going on with you? Is there something going on with you? This is not like you. So I don't have to take it personal. And then he can say, you know what? I actually had this like really shitty client meeting today and I'm just feeling really crappy. Got it. Okay. Yeah, I felt there was something going on with you there earlier. Thanks for letting me know. Right? Or there's that time when I got triggered and I said something really mean to my husband. Like it was super mean. And that was about 10 years ago. And since then, I've never done it ever again. But I said something in a moment of frustration. And I saw his face just like, right? Just like, ugh. And I caught myself and I said, oh my God, honey, what I just said, I did not mean that. I'm going to take that back. And I'm so sorry. That was not cool of me, not nice of me. And I just saw that I got triggered from what you said. And I'm going to go and work on that. But I just want you to know that whatever that thing that just happened, what I just did had nothing to do with you. I used to be bullied as a child. And when that happened, this thing just came out of my mouth, which had nothing to do with you. And it's totally not true. So just so you know, I called him useless. And he is the most unuseless person I have ever met. He's the most helpful person. And so when I said that, I was like, wow, Janelle, that was not cool. But I was able to calm myself on it and I was able to not have him receive that negativity from me as though it was a personal attack on him. Does that make sense?
It does. I think that kind of brings me up to something that like my wife and I agreed on early on, which sounds like you guys have a similar kind of agreement in your relationship, which is don't say mean things to each other or about each other. Like you almost have to make a pact to not like insult each other. Like that's part of your vow to each other. Like because if you don't, then you have a relationship where you pick on each other and you tease each other and you're mean to each other. And if that's okay talk when you're just in your day to day, then when you're angry, it's up here.
Yeah.
And so now because we don't talk to each other that way, then when we're angry, it's only up here. You know, like it doesn't escalate to, you no good effing blah, 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 blah. You know, it doesn't escalate to that because we don't like our baseline is kindness and goodness and we don't say mean things to each other and about each other so that if we get angry, we're just a little bit elevated.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, for us, we made an agreement. We have a code word. So when it starts to get, again, it's been probably, honestly, Josh, my husband and I have not gotten in a fight in like 10 years. But,
we fight once a day, but it's all good. It's better now.
We have an agreement that if things start to get heated, that we take a timeout. And he's the talker. I'm the shut down, walk away one. And so in the beginning, when we first got together, I would want to like detach myself and like I need a timeout because I know once I get to my boiling point, that's when shit comes out of my mouth that I don't mean. And so I'm trying to explain this to him. And for the first few years, he would just keep coming at me and I'm like, stop, I need a timeout. And he wouldn't. And of course, just kept, exploding in our faces. And then one day he admitted it to me. He said, I don't want to, because I said to him, I just need 5 minutes to cool down from my crazy brain and my illogical mind so that I can actually have a proper conversation with you. I promise you, just give me time. But he wouldn't. So anyway, we eventually had this conversation and he admitted it to me. He goes, I'm afraid of letting you have your time out because I go for a walk. It's typically what I do. He's like, I'm scared that you're not going to come back. I was like, oh, so that's what's going on. Okay, well, I said, I promise you, I will always, always come back. I just need time to get out of this like trigger that I'm in. Because I've had a lot of trauma in my life. My dad cheated on my mom with my mom's best friend when I was 9 and had a baby with her. And then came back to our family. My mom forgave him, which was great. And then he died. But like in that experience, I saw that, you know, I have trust issues. I had trust issues. I had it that, you know, everybody I love will leave me and that I'm unlovable. And so whenever these things would come up and I get triggered, all of a sudden I see red and I'm not even me anymore. I'm this other version of me. And I think we all have that, but the ugly green monster within us. And so I think when we can really embrace that, love that part of us, but also know how to identify it and then know how to kind of come back into our bodies and be present, the faster we can do that, the less damage we make. And so that's really what I teach people, is to pause, to not get stuck in that trigger reaction or that knee-jerk reaction, and take responsibility for their way of being and behaving, so that, you know, they're not blaming other people for the way that they react.
Yeah, that is excellent. Wow. Yeah, I feel like I learned a lot there. Actually, I'm going to like take notes on that, and I'm going to like, yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're getting to the place in the interview where I like to ask all my guests a few questions. And this is going to be very interesting because I don't typically get to ask a woman this question. So, Janelle, what does it take to be a man?
Well, I wouldn't know that answer because I'm not a man. However, what I can say is, what does it even mean to be a man? Like, you know, this whole cultural thing of being a man. To me, a man is someone who knows himself deeply, who is in touch with his beingness. He doesn't bullshit himself and other people, and has integrity. He is his word. He has honor, and he cares deeply and is not afraid to show that. And, you know, maybe 20 years ago, that's not what a definition, and I think that's my definition. I'm sure every woman and every man is going to have their own version of that. But I think what makes me sad is when people go, well, go be a man. It's like, well, what does that even mean? Because every man is different. And it just feels like we're trying to make people be a certain way when that's not who they are. Right? Like my husband is a soft-hearted man. And for me to go toughen up or whatever that looks like that's so inauthentic. And it's not who he is. So I think just if you are saying like, how do I be a man? And like, be yourself. Be the change you wish to see in the world. Be kind. Be respectful. Be appreciative. Learn to communicate, and always try to be a better version of yourself every single day, and go make a difference in people's lives. But I don't even think it's be a man. I think it's just be a good human being in the world.
Janelle, I don't think that's a bad answer at all. That actually echoes a lot of the things that we say. So I definitely talk about integrity and honor, and the fact that I love to paint this analogy, and I share it a lot in other talks here and there, and I'll share it with you, and I think you'll appreciate it. I like to contrast Mr. T and Mr. Rogers, and you talk about how different those two are from each other and how similar they are at the same time. You know, They both loved children's television. They both loved their mamas and loved Jesus, and they were vastly different from each other, and both of them were real men, you know? And and so, you know, I think that's something that it's okay if men look a little different. Both of them were tougher than heck too, you know? I mean, you know, you ever watch the video of Mr. Rogers and the Senate confirmation hearing, you know, when he fought for funding for children's television, you know? I mean, he was bold, you know, and he didn't back down, you know? And so, you know, I think that you're right. To be a man doesn't necessarily mean to look like Mr. T all the time.
Yeah, and even to that point, like, I think there's this got to be the provider, got to be this like stoic, strong, right? Like that kind of, to me, is a kind of an old school thought process. But, you know, it's like sometimes I feel like men forget the whole point of it. The whole point is to be there for their partner, to be that strong rock for their wife so she can be more feminine. But then sometimes I feel like this being a provider, they forget the whole point. They stop spending time with their families. All they do is work, right? And they're not even showing up. They're just like, well, you get the paycheck. Like, isn't that enough? Well, usually not. They want you. They want your heart. They want your love. They want your attention. They want your partnership. When I say they, I mean women. Right? Yeah, of course it's great to have that stability and the money and the all of the house and all that. But what is that any good when you're not there to share in that? And so for
Your
me,
kids want it too, so yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And so to me, my husband is as manly as they come, and this man has absolutely no problem shedding a tear. And to me, that's a man who can really just be himself and be okay with whatever is going on for him, and not try to be someone else he's not.
Yep. Yeah. I 100% affirm your answer. It's a good answer, Janelle. I appreciate it. All right. So let's say that you're able to somehow get your hands on a time machine and go back in time and visit 10-year-old Janelle. What are you going to tell her?
Well, 10-year-old Janelle was in a really messed up place. That was when my dad left. So, let your light shine is what I would say, and just be you. I felt like my whole childhood, I had to shrink myself in order to fit in order to be accepted. I was told a lot that I was too much. I was too intense. I was a dancer. I was a singer. I was a gymnast. Like, I had all this energy. I was a straight A student. And I was called a show off. I was called, like just these things and I got bullied a lot. And so to me, it was just easier to just try to hide, try to be invisible. And it's only been in my adult years that I've started to like go back into who I actually am at 10 years old. The other thing I would have probably told myself is don't listen. Don't listen to what other people tell you. I was told for so many years that I need to keep my expectation. I was talking to someone today we had lunch together. And I said, my husband is 10 times the man that I thought I would end up with. And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I was always told to keep my standards low, to not expect too much, to settle. Nobody's perfect. And I got someone who is beyond perfect in my eyes. And so I think just knowing your worth and loving yourself, even when others may not. So yeah, be yourself, be authentic, be you, let your light shine.
I think that's great advice. Do you think she would have listened?
If it came from me, yeah.
Okay.
I think so. But yeah, I don't know. I think so many of us are just such people pleasers, And we just want to be loved and accepted. And if who we are isn't being loved and accepted, we are going to do everything to be loved and accepted, even if it means shutting down this, which is really sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
You got a lot of wisdom, Janelle.
Thank you.
Speaking of wisdom, what is your best advice for the men that are listening today?
Can I have a second with that?
Yeah.
Because I really wanted to. I've said a lot today, so I really want to say something maybe that I haven't touched on. Consider that vulnerability is power. Because what we all want is to feel connection. And we can't feel and experience connection when we're so afraid to show who we are, to feel exposed. You know, when my husband looks at me in my eyes and I can feel him, like almost like he can look into my soul, it is the scariest feeling, because I know I'm not perfect. And yet he sees me as this gorgeous woman who is like the woman of his dreams. And I will fight. I will fight for my inadequacy. I'm trying to prove to him that I'm not as great as he thinks I am. But to be vulnerable enough to actually receive that level of love, to have him say to me, honey, I love you so much. And you are such a wonderful human. And to actually like let that in and let that sit and acknowledge that, it takes something. Because being vulnerable is not something I really grew up with. And it's kind of been a learned thing. So I guess that's maybe my advice, is that it's never too late to change. It's never too, as long as you're committed and you're willing to ask for help, it's never too late to change. And it's never too late to save your marriage, in my opinion. So that's what I would say.
Great advice. Great advice. So let's say the guys listening want to connect with you, and maybe they need some help with their marriage. They want to learn from what you're doing. What's the best way to make that happen?
Yeah, they can find me at JeanellGreene.com or at saveourmarriage.ca. And I offer free consultations for clients so that they can really experience what it feels like to fully be heard and seen without judgment, and to actually be in a safe space where transformation can occur.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put those links in the show notes as well. So if you're listening to this and you're like, all right, we need some help, we need to talk to Janelle, just click through those show notes and you can connect with her there. So awesome. Anything else you want to share with our guys while I got you on the line?
You know, I'm really inspired by how men have been changing just in general and over the past, since COVID. I think there's been this awakening that has happened, because before COVID, never had men reach out to me ever. And since COVID, it's been majority of men that are like, hey, Janelle, I want to be a better man. Hey, Janelle, I want to be a better communicator. Hey, Janelle, I need help saving my marriage. And that to me is so courageous. And that's leadership to me. And I think that men don't realize how much power they have in their relationship if they just have the right tools. So, just keep going and have faith. Believe in yourself.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today. You've got some great insights, and I definitely have some things I can take and learn from, and I'm sure the guys that are listening did too. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Josh.
Janelle, thank you so much for being on Manlihood today. It's not every day that we get a woman's perspective, and you are really appreciated. I appreciate your wisdom and your insight. Guys, if you want to know more, make sure that you check out her information. There's links there in the show notes. Guys, she reminded us that vulnerability isn't weakness. I know that's something that it definitely feels like weakness to us, but it's actually a source of strength if we use it properly. That connection starts when we stop trying to put up a show, stop trying to be tough, trying to put on bravado so that we can impress somebody or make them think that we're stronger than we actually are. You got to be real. You got to be authentic. You have to be honest. And it starts there. So listen, if you're married, engaged, or you're just trying to understand women a little bit better, take this to heart. Lead with compassion. Be curious instead of defensive. That's what strong men do. So make sure that you're subscribed, guys, to Manlihood Plus. It's like Disney Plus without the annoying cartoons. It's content that's going to help you level up as a man. You can subscribe on YouTube and on Spotify. And grab my book, Fight Like Hell, a journal for men who won't back down. You can get it on Amazon. Links are in the show notes. Join the Manlihood Man Cave, our private Facebook group for men. It's free. Anybody can join as long as you're a man. And we'd love to have you, and we're going to help each other level up there. If you liked something in this conversation, please comment, subscribe, share, all this stuff. Let's let people know that this is good. And that happens when you guys engage with what we're putting out. Guys, the work you're doing matters. You're doing a great job. I'm proud of you. And I love you. And I'll see you next time. Guys, the work you're doing matters. You're doing a great job looking after who you are and making sure that you're all that you can be. And I love you. And I'm proud of you. And I'll see you next time.
Thanks for being part of Manlihood. Now it's time for you to rise up and take action. Join the Manlihood Man Cave, our free Facebook group, and connect with the other men on the same journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share that episode with a friend. For more, visit manlihood.com.